least in the run-up to the November presidential election. So how do voters feel about President Biden dropping out of the race? And what about Vice President Kamala Harris seemingly headed towards the top of the Democratic ticket? CBS News Director of Elections and Surveys, Anthony Salvanto, has a new CBS News poll that addresses some of the big questions being asked in this very historic time. Anthony, first of all, thank you for joining us. I know you're the busiest man anywhere in politics, so we're so glad to have your expertise. Now, you have new polling just after President Biden dropped out. So how are Democrats feeling about Vice President Harris and the process of getting her to the top of the ticket?
Hey there, Dick. Great to talk to you. And let me show you this right off the bat. After Joe Biden stepped aside, by a 4-to-1 ratio, Democrats told us that they felt their odds of winning in November had gotten better rather than worse. You may recall Joe Biden was trailing Donald Trump in the polls. So that gives Democrats, at least in their minds, a boost right there, number one. And then your question about what the party should do. Right away, 8 in 10 Democrats told us the party ought to nominate Harris. And so you find the rank and file Democrats seem to be in sync with the delegates. And as you know, Harris has now gotten endorsements from the majority of delegates. So that syncs up as well. So that's what Democrats in the rank and file wanted. That's what the delegates wanted. So all that, at least on the Democratic side, is in sync now, Dick.
Yeah, Anthony, this all happened so incredibly fast. I mean, it's almost head spinning. And you have to wonder, President Biden will be speaking to the nation. He hasn't yet because he's had COVID. How do voters feel about the way the president's exit happened? And what do Democrats think his legacy will be now?
OK, so the first thing is, by and large, 8 in 10 Democrats said they approved of his decision. Maybe not a surprise, Dick, because up until then, a lot of Democrats have been saying they thought he ought to step aside. So that's number one. But the other part is this was really a lot about the campaign and not so much in the minds of Democrats about his performance. They tell us now they think people will look back on his legacy as excellent or good. So you see that strategy idea that they had about their chances improving. And then that is also connected here with them thinking that Joe Biden's legacy will be good. Again, approving of his performance, but thinking now with Harris as opposed to Biden that their chances have improved, Dick.
All right. Well, speaking of that, I guess that's the million-dollar question. Let's look ahead. What do we know about the potential matchup between Harris and Trump?
So we'll have plenty of polling in the coming weeks about it. We did do some what was then hypothetical matchup between Harris and Trump just before Biden stepped aside. And she was down 3 points to Trump. That's not a lot. It's less than Joe Biden was down, number one. But there's this really key point here then after Biden steps aside, which is this. You have 4 in 10 Democrats saying that they felt like this makes them more likely to vote. That's important because up until now, Democrats have been less likely than Republicans to say that they're going to vote. So whether or not they can close that turnout gap, I think is going to be a key measure to watch. It's probably a turnout election, even more than a persuasion one, Dick. So again, that's going to be key.
And you are always looking at things like what the younger voters are thinking. I know a lot of younger voters, younger than me, who are saying, hey, what are we doing with these two old guys running for president? Two self-professed old guys, we can say that. And I guess the Harris campaign must be saying, gee, maybe we can tap into these voters that perhaps Joe Biden wasn't reaching.
Yeah, I think that's going to be key. There's all sorts of demographic breaks that we can start to run here. One of them, I think women voters are going to be really important to watch here, too. Harris versus Trump, Biden versus Trump, it was comparable when it was hypothetical. But let's see what issues that they start to stress. We hear reports that Harris is going to start stressing the abortion issue even more. Let's see if that moves the needle for her a little bit. Of course, the economy is still going to be a top issue. It has been. All of those things are going to play in. And yes, young voters who've been less likely to say that they'll vote than older voters are, that's going to be a key thing to watch as well, whether they can move that gap as well, Dick.
And of course, you will be watching it now and all the way to November. Anthony Salvanto, I know you're so busy. We really appreciate you coming on. You are the CBS News Director of Elections and Surveys, and anything else they can